my attorney, he attended the sentencing for Igor, and in that case, the judge stated that this is a federal judge there in Minnesota, and she stated that this is not a significant case, and that she was surprised that this particular case was brought by the Antitrust Division. That, this is what I've heard the whole time. This is what I've heard from my attorneys. This is what I've heard from the probation, pretrial probation office. This is, what I've heard from other attorneys is they didn't really understand why they would prosecute this, other than the fact that they needed to get the numbers up to prove that they didn't, that they shouldn't be cut more. So hearing the judge state that, I think kind of helped me a little bit, just my mindset, my getting through it. All throughout this ordeal, there was a lot of praying between, with me praying, my wife praying, and the answer from God was always, everything is going to be okay. Now, when you're going through this, you don't know what everything is going to be okay means. Yeah, I mean, if I go to prison for a year or two, everything's going to be okay. I'll be fine. We'll get out and move on with life. I would be fine in that instance. There were lots of instances that everything is going to be okay would fit, and we couldn't. We got the best of everything's going to be okay. It was something that I wasn't expecting, but it really was okay. Better than okay is how it turned out. That same judge noted the significant stress the defendant experienced while under investigation, pending sentencing, stating the stress is also punishment. So that's another government official that thinks the case really shouldn't have been brought, and that, what we went through already was enough of a punishment, really. But, like I've said a couple times, you've got to understand why the DOJ, particularly the Antitrust Division of the DOJ, was pushing so hard for this case. They went through a significant workforce reduction of about 20% between 2017 and 2018. So, when you have that big of a workforce reduction, everybody thinks they got to fight for their job. They got to pull their numbers up. They got to show that they're doing something. And that's what the Antitrust Division was doing at that time. They went from 830 people to 695. So everybody, there were a number of people that my attorney and my mom's boss both called other attorneys that were in antitrust in Washington, D.C. and elsewhere, and they said that the DOJ was not, the Antitrust Department was not negotiating, because originally we thought my attorney thought that he could get this knocked down from a felony to a misdemeanor or a felony on the business, which is something that's something new to me too, right? Didn't know a business could have a felony on it, but that's a lot better than a felony being on me personally. So on the back of this DOJ workforce reduction of the Antitrust Department, let's talk about the attorneys involved in this case a little bit. From the government side, the government antitrust attorneys out of the Chicago office. There were two of them that were primarily on this case. One of them was a woman, and she was fine. She was great. I didn't have any issues with her. Second one was a younger guy who I think he was sitting second chair on this realistically, and I did not like him. He had something to prove the whole time. He had something to prove. So his name was Daniel Glad. I looked up his information here recently, and it's pretty interesting information. So around this time, 2018, Daniel Glad was a trial attorney for the DOJ Antitrust Office out of Chicago. But by 2019, he became the assistant chief of the Chicago office. And then by 2020, they created a new division that he became the director of. And that division was the Procurement Collusion Task Force. So they created a whole task force now on antitrust violations and trying to strike that out of the government, which in and of itself isn't bad. But when you're chasing pennies, you've got better things to spend your time doing. So I think this case probably, and I imagine there were others, but I think it was a ladder climbing case for this guy. He was able to work his way up from this case. This is just my perspective from sitting here and seeing all this. So anyways, now he's the Deputy Assistant Attorney General for Criminal Enforcement. That's what his resume says now. He's the acting one. So now that's February of 2022 to now. So that's when my sentencing was scheduled. My sentencing was scheduled for February of 2022. So let's see. Let's go in. What happened? So February of 2022, we had the sentencing scheduled and had a flight to go up to Minnesota, and that was when the big winter storm hit DFW, and our flight got canceled.